Anne Frank, and I'm widely known for my diary, which provided information on what life for an ordinary Jew like me was like during the time period that I lived. I was born in 1929 in Frankfurt, Germany. My mother is Edith Frank. My father is Otto Frank. My sister Margaret is 3 years older than me, and you can guess what her last name is. I went to the Monterossi School and did well in all subjects, but especially well in arithmetic. I had many friends. I lived during World War II. For Jews like me in that time period, life wasn't very pleasant, to say the least. Adolf Hitler did not like Jews, and so he made laws against them. He thought that Nazi Germans were the master race, and anybody who was Jewish, Gypsy, or anything other than pure German were just impurities to be disposed of. So our bikes were taken away. We were made to wear six-sided yellow stars to set us apart from the non-Jews. We could not ride in cars or trams and had to walk everywhere we wanted to go. And we were only allowed to shop between 3 and 5 o'clock, and then only at Jewish shops. 6 million Jews were killed during that time period. On my 13th birthday, I invited all my friends over to my house, and I received many gifts. But out of all the gifts I received, my favorite was my red and white checkerboard diary that I called Kitty. One day, Father found out that the Nazis were coming to take Margaret away, and so he then told me that my mother and him had been planning for quite a while to go into hiding, but had to speed it up by 10 days because of what had just happened. The place we were going to stay was the attic of my father's office building, and we were sharing it with Mr. Dussel, Mrs. Van Daan, Mr. Van Daan, their son, Peter Van Daan, and Peter's cat. We were only allowed to make noise when the workers left. I, of all the people in the house, was made to share them with Mr. Dussel. Anybody could have shared it with him, but I had to share with him. He snored loudly, and Mr. and Mrs. Van Daan took all the time they could to make noise to argue with each other, and I could hear it over my head all the time. And the worst part was that we all lived there, so we couldn't get away from each other. But it wouldn't be like that always. Everybody in the attic had dreams of what they would do after the war was over. I would be so happy and excited I wouldn't know what to say or do. We didn't get all our after-the-war wishes granted, though. For about 2 years, we lived there in the attic until we were found out by the Nazis. We were all sent to different places. Mr. Dussel was sent to the Neuengamme camp and died there in 1944. Mrs. Van Daan died in transit to the Theresienstadt camp in 1945. Mr. Van Daan was sent to the Auschwitz camp and died there in 1944. Peter was sent to the Mauthausen camp and died there in 1945. Mother was sent to the Auschwitz-Birkenau camp and died there in 1945. Margie was sent to the Bergen-Belsen camp and died there in 1945. Father survived Auschwitz and died in 1980, after the war was over. I wasn't that lucky. I died at the Bergen-Belsen camp in 1945. I never lived to be 16. After my death, Meade, the lady who had been helping us hide, found my diary and gave it to my father. He had copies made of it and circulated them to close friends and family members. Eventually he was persuaded to have it published and available to the public. Now everybody can read my diary and learn about my life.